Hello, Dinah. Hello, Dinah. It's
Hello,
Julia.
Julia. Hello, darling.
How you going?
Fantastic.
That's good. How are you, Talia?
So definitely worth the 4 hours of sitting through. The first half is a lot of scaremongering about the virus. It's important to understand what's going on though, but not.
I didn't think it was scaremongering at all. I thought it was just, no, Neil, you've got to understand things are not what they seem. You know, this country's getting off easy, so don't relax the guard. I'm not saying be panicked, but we all have to just be a little bit careful. And I thought that first half explaining how you can birth babies into the Gans waters and allow them to become souls that are like strong within themselves so that they don't need to feed was brilliant. I think that's a real game changer.
It doesn't really apply to our generation, no. I'm long past babies in baths.
I don't know. I think if you, if we all drink some of the good stuff, you never know. If we drink some of the good stuff, maybe we revert. Used to say we don't all get to be 30 again.
Wasn't that called Cocoon?
Rather
and some of us have got people, kids who might want grandkids. So I'd be happy for my grandkids to be like that too.
Well, my swimming pool is full of Gans. It's almost like Cocoon. It's crystal clear now, by the way. Those that saw it last time, it was bright green. It's like glass now. It's uncannily clear. So you're welcome to come and jump in the pool and whatever else might happen.
Yeah, I think these pools are going to become quite important if we understand. I had a guy who was using magnesium salts in his pool with the Ganses, and he was having fantastic results instead of a chlorine pool. Quite interesting. What I'm going to do...
Can you just tell me what the number of the thing was on Wednesday night or Thursday? What number?
326. Was it? Yeah, 326.
No, 326.
326. 326?
7.
327 already. Okay.
Yeah, it's moving fast.
Thank you.
It takes us all week to watch the one from last week, and then you get up to the next one.
Well, we've waited a couple of minutes, so I'm going to get Jimmy to start. He's going to show everyone how to build their cup, and then we'll do some of the theory and discussion afterwards. So I'm going to hand you over to Jimmy.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Jimmy.
Hi, Jimmy.
We're all still enjoying our lockdown, I presume.
Oh, yeah. My house is full of spirits.
It's
Not
giving us
not the
lots of
type.
time for perspective and thinking, which is a good thing for us all, so it's good. Okay, so to build this cup of man, so we were taught how to build the first cup. So that's cup number 1. So that had your central nano-coated copper wire, and then it had your zinc on the one side and your copper on the other side. So that was your basic setup for your cup number 1. Then the cup number 2 was again your central nano-coated copper, And this time it was 2 pieces of copper. So you had your copper coil on the one side and then a flat piece of copper, either copper sheet on the one side or the copper wire bent in that concertina type style to give you that flat shape. So those were the 2 cups that we've created. And then we had to create the cup of man, which was joining the 2 cups together. So I'm going to go through slowly. So what basically said was we had to join the 2 central pins. So it's the 2 nano-coated copper coils. So those had to be joined together of both cups. So you just took a wire from the one to the other and you joined the 2. Then you had to join the 2 physicalities in a way. So what you had to do was your 2 outer plates, your coils from each cup, had to join together, and then these had to be joined together with another wire. And then the third step was to join the 2 wires together to create a bridge between those 2 connections. Okay. And so originally he had showed us the 2 cups side by side, and we were all very good and followed and made our cups next to each other. And then obviously in the following workshops, he said no, that they need to be in the vertical position, because the 2 cups side by side was sort of the dead man's position with the way we sleep. So in the vertical position, it's exactly the same way as you wire up. It's just that you have your cup number 1 on top and cup number 2 underneath. So here we've just used a box. You can use anything to create your positioning between your cup 1 and cup 2. What we found quite interesting when we made this is, you have to find that right position between the 2 cups, and each one of us was going to be different. So there is no set formula that it has to be 10 or 15 centimeters apart. We found that we had used this box and the bottom cup was on the bottom, and it just didn't feel right. And then we tried 1 or 2 different size glasses just to raise that cup number 2 until we found the one that sort of you feel comfortable with, matches. So it's going to be a process that you just move either cup 1 or cup 2 up and down until you find that they are comfortable with it. So it all comes down to you and your feeling with these cups.
Because the cup is you. You're making a replica of you. So each person will be different. You have to make your own cup. Somebody else shouldn't make your cup for you. And then each little tweak and position will define, your soul will make the cup as to be a reflection of you. And weirdly enough, when this was my cup, and so when I raised the bottom one higher than where it is now, I started feeling a sensation almost of like getting like something in my throat, like in my throat, because the intersection of the fields in that point was in the wrong position in the cup, and so I had to drop it down to feel the correct position, because your 2 cups are interacting and you've got your central point there, just like the soul of you and the soul of physicality of you are interacting. The central point is around your throat chakra, and that is where the 2 interact and intersect. Do you want to ask Jimmy any questions about the building of the system?
I'm going to go back to that picture there in terms of the wiring connection. So everybody comfortable with wiring up their own cup?
Jimmy, I'm going back a couple of Keshe teachings, and he made it very strong point of not to use all coils, to use plates and coils, but not all coils. He said that only one person of the Keshe Foundation group was at a particular ascension level that they could incorporate the zinc coils with the copper coils. He didn't elaborate why, but he said it could be a problem for people if we did use all coils instead of the combination that he's showing us of plates and coils. Did you come across that?
Yes, it came across that. You know, obviously we've, in the cup number 2, you've got your concertina copper wire, which gives you your flat copper there. I take it to, you know, this is your cup, it's a reflection of yourself. So you must do what you want to do. There's no rules, as far as I understand. You know, he might say, don't do this, don't do that. Me personally, I find it a challenge to go and do it then. But that's me. Everybody else you want to follow exactly, then you know, follow. So,
you know, when he was asked the question, so must I do it like this? He said, you must decide. You must decide what you use. You have to use a nano-coated coil in the center. That's a given. And you have to use all 3 in all 3 cups. That's a given. But the however else you want to make it, that's your baby. And your soul should tell you what you want to try and what you want to do.
Can I ask a question? You've still got it all in the box. You've still got all the same connections as you've got in the illustration.
in this illustration, which is up now, is the connection as the cup of man. So all you're doing is, instead of the cups sitting next to each other, you have one on top of each other, but the connection is exactly the same. So all you need is just longer wire.
Longer wire.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
It's just longer wires.
Okay. Thanks.
Has anybody else made one?
No, mine's half made.
Okay.
And it's been waiting for today just to get confirmation.
Okay.
So thank you. One point I picked up during the Mr. Keshe videos was that this nano-coated green wire that you've got there, that he definitely said must go on last. That is the connection, that is the last thing that you put on. So I'm just reaffirming that with you.
Yes, again, it's how you connect it all up. You know, I did that purely when I look back when I made mine. Yes, those were the last wire that I connected up, because once you connect up all your other long wires, then you just join those two.
Yes.
So it ends up being the last wire connection that you do make, in a way. Yes.
Isn't it interesting how we all want rules?
Yes, we need a formula and the exact dimensions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, he
and the
explained.
interesting thing is,
No, go for it.
the amount of salt you need in your solution. You know, that's totally up to what we feel is right for us. Yeah.
So you got to try and match with the salt content of the body of the man, of yourself. So yes, again, comes down to what percentage you want to use.
What was also quite interesting is he said at one point, you know, that join that you make and your wire's a bit of a kink here or something there is just a reflection of like that, I don't know, that weird wonky something in your body, which was quite interesting.
Lisa, I've got a picture of my cup of life on the golden age of GANs if you want to find it and show.
No,
Neil, I'm not Rick.
If you got it, you can share it. Otherwise, I'm not that afraid. Fast. You want to? Have you got it there to share?
No.
And you want me to do it?
Anyone who wants to see it can see it on the Golden Age of GANs. But I'm like you, Lisa. I started before I heard all the information, and mine is I'm a crusty old salt, so mine's 15% salt.
Yeah, I did mine 15 as well. To start with, yeah.
I did mine 15, and then I wanted to collect a little bit of GANs because I want to play around a little bit with some GANs and just, you know, check them out. So when I actually harvested my GANs, I emptied, I would say 3/4 of my cups out of water, the salt water, and I added fresh water. So now I'm probably sitting at, you know, 1.5, and I'm just going to watch and see, because you can sort of, you know, suck out and put fresh and do things like that to, you know, to play a bit. So
I'm noticing that mine, the bottom jar, the physical soul, is a bit bigger in volume of that jar to the head. I just think that my body is a bit bigger than my head at this point in time anyway. So I've made it that way, and it's making a lot of copper GANs at the bottom, but hardly any GANs at the top. I checked my wiring multiple times, so it must be just how I am.
Yeah, I think you'll find there'll probably be many books written on, you know, we take pictures of these copper mans, and every little bit of GANs here or no GANs there or this or that all tells a story about us. But we just don't know what it tells yet, you know. So it's like tarot cards; it will reveal itself.
I got quite a fright, because at one point he said, "Oh, you know, if you get a whole lot of stuff under your middle coil, you know, the GANs is piling up there, then maybe it shows you quite a selfish person." So my setup that you see in the pictures, it's actually out on our deck, and so every time we walk, it sort of vibrates the whole thing, and so the ganses were falling very fast into the middle, and I'm thinking, oh dear, I must be terribly selfish.
And who goes jumping on the trampoline behind there? Both of you?
No, that's the neighbor.
Yeah, that's the neighbor's kids.
I also just read that Kesh said, don't look for the GANs, look for the energy. It's not to do with how much GANs you're collecting.
No, it isn't. But you know, the GANs does have properties, so one can play with it in various ways. And yes, it is the energy, and you can connect to it and feel it. That's what we're going to sort of talk about after we've discussed the physical making of it.
Has anybody else made one?
Okay. I'm waiting for my kit.
Yeah, this is Blanca from Taree. I've actually made mine some time ago, and I'm like, probably a few weeks ago, and I made it side by side, and I did at that stage, Mr. Cash didn't say it's got to be one on top of the other, and I kept looking at it, and I kept thinking, well, there's something wrong. I was checking the wires, and then when he said there's got to be one on top, one on the bottom, and I thought, oh yeah, and it felt so much better.
So you swapped them around then?
Yeah, I've got them, the cup one on the top and cup two on the bottom. But before, like when I first made them, I knew there was something wrong, but I just couldn't figure out what was wrong.
Yeah, okay, great.
And another very interesting thing is I made mine very, very low salt concentration. And then about 2 weeks afterwards, I kind of got this idea that I've got to add some more salt. So the cup one wanted certain amount of salt, and cup two wanted a different amount of salt, which I felt that was very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, because one is always you want to put the same in both, but yeah, it would differ. Very good point.
You know, your brain is different to the rest of your body. Salt content, I'm sure.
Can I
Yeah,
mention
well, that's
interesting curiosity?
Pardon?
Sorry, it's Julia.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to mention something when Blanca was talking about doing the cup of man and having them side by side. I'd actually done the same thing at the same time, thereabouts anyway. And I remember Blanca saying she had huge amount of pain in her feet. And it's a strange curiosity. I had exactly the same. I had shocking pain in my feet, which has since gone since I've put the, you know, one cup on top of the other.
Okay.
But anyway, I just thought I'd mention it. I thought it was
interesting.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Was there somebody else that also was trying to make a comment?
But Lisa, if three of us make this, we may ascend pretty quickly. So do we get a warning like you're going to ascend in 3 days' time sort of thing?
I don't know.
I think, you know, this is just another tool again. So we'll discuss the theory and the tools, but the trick is you've got to be in control. You're the pilot.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
So yeah, you've got to try and figure out for yourself, you know, how you want to use this and what you're going to do.
Of course, the other thing that I heard was that each person needs to make their own. So because it is a replica of you, I guess if someone's wanting assistance, you would outline the procedure and have illustrations, but they must put it together themselves, hey?
Yes, what Kesh said was if you're physically with a person and to help them to make it, you can work with them and help them and set their cups up, but they must join the last wires together because they must put that intention into that last wire. You can also make it, he said, for your children, for example, who are not yet mature enough to understand or do for themselves, you can do it. So whether that means I can do it for my 24-year-old son, who as far as I'm concerned is not mature enough to understand this stuff but might benefit from one, I don't know.
Thank you, yeah.
Any other questions about the physical making of it before we go on to the sort of the theory and how we might want to use it?
Can I ask Lisa, the kit that you're that I've ordered, will it have enough connecting wires to do it on top of each other, or?
Yes. What I've done is, you know, but you'll have to then trim it or put it to your size because I've just put some extra wires in, quite long ones. So you'll have to then trim them to what you want and join them up. But the stuff is all there.
Okay, thank you.
You might want to remind people which way to put the cups in the vertical. Unless people stand on their head a lot, they might not want the copper one up the top.
Well, we're going to sort of, sort of in the slide, it says the cup is now a representation of you. Now, as we've all understood, the CO2 and zinc cup that you're creating, the white one, is connection to your soul. So obviously the soul part of you, because it's in the middle of your head, is at the top. And the physicality, which is the all copper one, is underneath, because that is the representation of our physical body and our physical soul. So you must decide the shape of the parts, whether you want flat bits or coils. I do add, because normally all our stuff is coils, I do add like a couple of concertinas for the different pieces, so that you've got whatever you want. You've got all the parts to then put it together the way you want. And you must also decide the salinity to match the man, or whatever you decide. And then the cup is a tool to discover yourself. And the most important part is the fields and not the GANs. You know, Kesh has said, okay, we can use this to feed. And I think we can use it as a physical tool. We're going to figure that out, how to use it as a physical tool, because he obviously gave this for a reason. But then he starts going off on all the soul journey stuff, and then you kind of forget that you must use it to feed yourself in a physical way, as well as a field interaction sense, and understand how to work with it in the soul aspect. So what he also explained, unfortunately, this is the flat way, but if you take it as the up and down, essentially the interaction of the two fields is where we'll get fed. And that feeding is not only physical, but it's also emotional and at a soul basis. So if you actually set your cups up, if you take your hand and you put it in that central point, you can feel that's where the field is the strongest point. I don't know if any of you have played. Have you felt that, Neil?
I'm a typical bloke. I don't feel much unless it's a sledgehammer hitting my palm.
Blanca, have you managed to have a feel? Oh, Blanca's not unmuting herself. She must be away from the mic. Okay, so what we also have to understand is that you've connected the physicalities of, in a sense, the brain and the body, and you've connected the souls, the soul of the man and the soul of the physicality of the man. And so if you can feel the fields of each one or the total thing together, what you have to do somehow, and please remember, when you're sitting in front of your cups, if they're horizontal, you must be horizontal. If they're vertical, you must be vertical, because now you're connecting inward. So if, for example, you have them in a horizontal position, if you go and lay next to them, maybe they feel correct. So if you're going to connect, the trick is to use, because it's a reflection of you and it's your little baby, you can use the energetic field strength of the whole device, that when you start playing to try and elevate your soul, you can use it as a reference point, the same as like with your GPS system. If you know with a GPS system exactly where your home is, you can relocate it if you're somewhere away from home. So the trick is, if you can expand your soul and start using it to move out of your body, you can then directly connect back in, because your soul is an energetic construct, and when you go into the soul state, you're only in energy, you're not physical. You can use the energy of the cup as your reference point to come back in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And Kish this is a direct sort of quote from him: the physicality of a man is weak. And to bring the body into the realm of the soul, because the whole point of expanding your soul is to encompass your body within the soul energy. By expanding the soul, then you use that cup as your reference to come back when you want to come, because it gives you the gravitational magnetic field of the cup as your reference. So I'm just reiterating this to try and explain this concept, because when you're sitting contemplating things and trying to understand how to elevate, you can use that tool. And then this was a bit of a freaky one, and I think it's something that one needs to sit very carefully and try and understand, because he was saying, when we're in school and we learn maths, they will tell us that A and B equals C and D. Then if A is the soul of the man, and B is the physicality soul of the man, and C is the soul of the cup, and D is the physicality soul of the cup, you always have to have a balance between the two. So somehow, if you give or take from one to the other, that's how the balance point is, how you end up going to feed. And this is quite a difficult thing, because when I look at this, there's many angles you can come from. There's many ways that you can try and look at this. And it's one of those things that I think you have to sit and ponder for hours and hours. So I'm not going to ask you to comment here, because it's actually quite a a weird one. So if, like, for example, if somehow your A, which is your soul, feeds into D or B, you're going to elevate the one above or below and the third one to all come to like a balance point. So, and if you feed B, for example, then again, you're going to have to feed into either all of these. So I think you're going to have to sit and contemplate this for quite a while, because I feel this is quite important, but I couldn't quite put my nail. It's one of those you're going to have to really sit and think on. I don't know if anyone's got any comments on that.
Lisa, wouldn't it be the case that by having set up the cups of man, that you're actually balancing everything? So to put in an algorithm like this actually confuses the situation that you've already handled.
You see, what you do is you're creating a replica of yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. But now yourself is not, you're not in tip-top condition. We haven't elevated our soul, and we haven't elevated our physicality to be totally well and healthy and all of these things. So the trick is to figure out, are we going to feed ourselves to make the cup more? We're going to feed the cup more to make us more?
If we follow our intuition on what's needed, I think then we progress at our optimum pace for what we need. And that's how I see it. Because the whole idea of Cup of Man is to elevate the soul, which then feeds the physicality.
Yes.
And so, yes, for me to see a mathematical equation is actually confusing, when I feel that if you just follow your gut instinct with the cup, you'll be able to achieve the best that you can for you in any given moment.
Yeah, that is for your intuition, and that's great. But some people kind of need sort of a little bit more direction as to ideas on how to get from A to B. Although this is A, B, and C, D. But it's just that, it's people's brains work in different ways. And so I'm just giving people ideas. If it doesn't, if it's not conducive to you, my suggestion is to go and listen to the whole of 324, which this comes from. The whole thing is important. And he comes at it from very different angles, and something will resonate with you to try and understand and get a better handle on it.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you hear me, Linda?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I was just watching something on sacred geometry with Jane 108 mathematics, and he was talking about harmonics between numbers, and this is between letters. So that might, I can't explain it, but that might help someone who wants to look at the math, this symbol, these symbols. They're symbols. It was about harmonics between them all. Yeah.
Yes, you know, because what we're doing here is we got to figure out, okay, now we've got this representation of us, so it's giving us like a body double. Now, how are we going to use that body double to help ourselves and help others? You know, my first feeling when I looked at something like this is quite honestly not so much what can this give to me. The point is, what can this do for humanity? And one of the basic lessons we've learned is that you have to give to be able to receive. Because if you don't give out, nothing can come in, because it's in that balanced state. So my feeling is, it's not so much I must now take from this cup to make me better. The point is for me to understand that as a soul, I can give unconditionally from my soul to myself, to others, to everything around me. I will then be open to fill more. And so by filling, you know, by giving out, I will be filled up from the universe, from Creator. And so to me, the whole exercise with this cup is I sit and I give. I give unconditionally to the whole of Australia for a start. And because, you know, that's where I'm charged to look after. And then I go out into the wider. And to me, what we're doing with this, if we do that, our cup will make a reflection and do the same. So for every one of us that gives to the rest of humanity, we're doubling up. So we can use this to elevate humanity. And by doing that, I don't feel I have to navel gaze or figure out how to elevate my soul, because I know it's going to do it automatically.
But that's the power of intention. Yeah.
Because the more you give, the more you receive, you know, and I haven't got time to sit and figure out whether I must jump 3 times to the left and lift my eyes to the right and then gaze at the sun for 3 hours and then maybe I'll elevate. No, I just need to give, you know.
Yes.
And you think we've all been trying so hard to give for humanity to elevate. If we all make, you know, all of the people with the right intention make these cups, then we've doubled up, you know, that whole 100th monkey syndrome. We've now doubled up. So we don't need as many of us to really change everything. And yes, maybe we'll figure out how to use a little bit of the GAN so we won't need to eat, and we won't, you know, we can use this as a tool for many other things. But at this point, when I'm not quite sure how to do all these other things and I'll have a little play, I can sit every day for a little while and give unconditionally. And it's 2 of me now. Because he's your baby, it's your baby. Does anybody else have any suggestions how we can use it as a tool for whatever we might need?
Hi Lisa, it's Julia. I was just wondering if the previous diagram that you were showing, I'm just wondering if that kind of connects to a parallel version of ourselves. So, or other versions that might be more than one version, you know, in other realms and dimensions. So whether it's actually feeding that other version of ourselves, which might feed other versions, and then come back to the original cup of man, you know, maybe we're feeding these
that's the harmonics. Yeah, that's the harmonics.
Yeah, very much like that. Yeah. Just my thought anyway. So
Kesh will tell you that's rubbish, but anyway. He doesn't believe in any alternate realities. He says we all coalesce into the no. He says that's a figment of our imaginations.
Oh, there's only this one then.
Well, right. there's many energetic layers that reside within this one. So you can call it an alternative reality, but it's not really. It's just a higher field strength that we are living with.
Yeah. So maybe it's sort of, feeding the aura different layers that are going out.
Yes, that it would be doing, most definitely. Because as he even says, the Gans of it, which is not very much, represents the physical part of you. But the rest of the water that's end up clear, that's the field, because we know we are 0.9999% empty space, what they would consider empty space, but it's not, it's fields.
Right. Yeah, interesting.
Are we going to drink this water? No.
You can take some of the ganses and give it a wash, and you can decide what you want to do with it. You can try to drink it. You can try to spray it. What Kesh said in the one, which he then sort of went over really fast, which he said you can take the cup number 1 and you can make as many little patches or something what you like and put it on your head, and then make the cup number 2 patches and put them on your toes, and then the strength between the two should feed your body in between.
Oh, wow.
So that was the one suggestion. The other suggestion that some of the people had was it will grow amino acid structures on the top of the cup. So if you dip your finger in the amino acid on the top of the cup, it should sort of be instead of a meal, so to speak, that energy should feed you, or you can collect them and test. So all of these things you can test and try, besides playing with the soul stuff.
He seemed to be a bit cautious about the amino acids when we were doing cup 1 and 2, in that I think I remember reading that you only would ingest them if you were like really depleted and almost dead, basically. Yeah. Unless you were malnourished, very malnourished. Yeah.
Well, that's, so, yeah, it's they're not bad for you. They are good for you. It's just you can't like use too much, and you only need a very tiny little bit. So, you can collect, you can try, and you can play. There's no harm in playing. What he said as well is that, for example, you could add a little bit of food gans into your cups. He also said you could possibly, to feed yourself. He also suggested that if you are on a medication, you could put it into a little baggie and then drop it into your cup so that you could feed yourself the medication through the cup. And obviously in a baggie, because you'd want to, when you don't need it anymore, you could pull it out.
What's a baggie?
A little Ziploc bag.
Oh, Ziploc. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Excellent.
So those are the things one could try.
And that goes in cup 2 for the physicality. Yeah.
I would suggest, but also maybe a touch in cup 1, because your cup 1, your cup 1 is still, it's your soul energy, but it's also got, it's sort of representing your brain and your emotion with the zinc, and so you still would be feeding your brain as such around the physicality. So I've put a touch of food gans mainly in the bottom one, and then I've put a touch in the top so that it kind of can connect up, that they can talk to each other in a sense.
That's lovely.
Anyone else heard of anything or can suggest any other ways we can try to play with our cups?
Well, Lisa, I just thought, perhaps even the level, the height off the ground that you have the cups would be an interesting little experiment as well. So you could have them at ground level, you know, one above the other, or you could have a table level, a bit like what you've got in your picture, or you could go up into the ceiling of the house and put it in the ceiling.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm on the second floor on the deck outside, so that's good. Jimmy's down in the garage.
But they would be different at each point. That's the thing, hey?
Yes, and funnily enough, like the one outside, which is mine, when I had the higher salt solution, the top cup just had bubbles. It was just full of bubbles. Not a lot of GANs, but a lot of bubbles in the water, all stuck to the glass. Too beautiful. And then downstairs with Jim's cup, half of it has a bubble, and half of the glass is totally clear. And what that even signifies or represents, I don't know, but there's definitely a difference in interaction. So it's just interesting and fascinating.
Lisa, when you, like, I've got my cup one that we set up originally as cup of life, sitting horizontally. Should that also be in a vertical setup?
No, no. If it's just a normal cup ones, it's fine. You don't need to worry about that at all.
Thanks heaps. Yeah.
I have a question, Linda. I have my 1 and 2 together, and 2's doing just fine, and 1 has stopped doing GANs, which now I realise it doesn't mean it hasn't got the field. But should I be worried about that, or should I?
You need to just have a check, Linda, because maybe one of the wires has come a little bit loose. Maybe there's like a salt crust on it, so that the
there is a bit of salt on it. So what do you think? What should I take that off with an old toothbrush or something?
Yeah, if your wires are a bit salty, then it can sort of bog up the works. So you just need to kind of undo your wires maybe a little bit and clean them with some clean water and wipe away the salt. And get them going again. Yeah, it can be that. It can be that you need some fresh water. It can be means that you might have too many aminos on the top of your water, that they need to go.
Yeah, I've done all that stuff, taken the aminos off and done that, but there is a bit of salt, so I'll on the connections. Yeah, so I'll do that. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to share?
Christine Martin here. Yes, mine has got all salt crystals on it as well. So I do need to clean them off, do I?
Only if it's the wires. You know, if it's on your cup itself, it's not a bad thing. Also, what Kesh said at one point, if it's your cup 1 and 2, you can keep that salt, because it's actually you can mix that salt in with some water and use it as your preventative spraying around the environment, because apparently it's very strong. It's almost a salt gans, and it will do a very good job of disinfection.
So I have to take all the wires out of the jar and clean them then.
No, not the wires in the jar, just your connecting wires outside, and your connections, all your little connections connecting your coils and such.
Okay, thank you.
Everyone's very quiet today. No one wants to share.
I'm just thinking what a hassle that will be to get all the salt off the connections. So, anyway, it won't be. It'll happen with ease and grace.
Maybe just give them a spritz with a little spritzer, and then it might just drip off, and then you have less salt. You know, spritz with clean water.
Because the connections come from you and they're really, really tightly wound together. I don't think I could actually undo them. So I'll just get a toothbrush onto them. That should be okay. Yeah.
What about a damp cloth? You can just use a damp cloth just to sort of dab around where the salt has built up.
Yeah, I'll try that. I'll try that first. Yeah. That sounds easy.
Trying to pull everything apart, it's just a bit of a nuisance, and then sticking it back together. So.
Oh, I couldn't do that. No. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I tried a damp cloth.
Damp cloth or toothbrush. Thanks.
I think Mr. Kesh said that even if you've got no water in your cups, the soul is still present if all the wires are connected.
Yes, you don't even have to put the water in. And
yes, they feel like little babies. I feel like they're my little babies. I talk to them and go, oh, you know, they're great. They're little people, for sure.
Yes, they are. You can actually feel their presence, you know.
Yes, yeah.
And it's quite interesting to be able to play with them. You know, I find them very interesting. And I must say, Jim and I, we made, because Kish made a throwaway remark about also making like the cup of physicality, the number 2. He said, oh, we might have to also make a cup of emotion. So at some point, which he hasn't done yet, but Jim and I started playing, and so we did a 3 zinc cup with a nano-coated zinc in the center, same configuration as the copper. And then we also did one, the same as the cup number 2, but instead of 2 coppers on the outside, we did 2 zincs on the outside. And both of these are so different from anything else we've done before. And the one with the 3 zincs, with the zinc in the center, when you hold the cup, we haven't actually harvested any of it yet. And what it looks like is it's almost ethereal. It doesn't look like Gans. It looks like there's a sort of a gel layer there, but it's almost invisible. So it's of some consistency that is it's almost non-physical. And it's beautiful. And when you try and hold the cup, as you go close to it, you can feel the strong, strong feel. And Jim said to me, oh, please come and feel this thing, because he sits and meditates with it. And he says it actually shifted his heart. He could feel his heart shifting in his body. And so when I took it the first time and I held it, I felt like I was being hugged by my mother. And the tears started streaming down my face. But I had this big giant smile. And it just came out of me, out of nowhere. It was the weirdest, strangest feeling. So a lot of these babies that we're making are new energies that we've never felt before, and can be really something special if one starts to play.
Lisa, I get that energy is the angelic realm.
Yes.
So you might like to check with that. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's quite incredible, and it really fills your heart full with it's almost like a joy, and you feel totally, as I said to Jimmy, it felt like somebody was wrapping their arms around me and holding me in a hug, like my mother did when I was tiny. That safe space, you know, which as an adult you very rarely get. You know?
Wouldn't that be great for someone who missed out on that close bonding with a mother? Wouldn't that be fantastic?
Is there any chance you can share some photos of that particular setup, Lisa? I'd love to have a look.
Well, it was literally, I'll show you the one picture here. I'll just see. I don't know if Jim is. Okay, I'm just going backwards. Okay, so if you have a look at this, where it says cup number 2, that's all copper, if you can see. So it's got a copper nanocoil and a zinc flat, a copper flat and a copper coil. Now I did that exact same, we did that exact same configuration with a nano zinc, and it's all zinc. So all of those things are zinc.
Ah.
That's very interesting, Lisa, because in 314, Kesh very quickly, and he skipped over it so damn fast, he talked about a variation using a nano-coated zinc and a zinc, but he still had the copper coil in there. And he said, when that makes GANs, particularly the GANs you harvest off the top, he specifically said that that GANs is the best GANs ever for working with problems with the brain, with the mind, with the soul. And it should be the one that we'll be focusing on for the antidepressant, the schizophrenia, all those sort of mental illnesses, that this would be the best GANs. I discussed this with Rick's plasma group a couple of weeks later to see, I wasn't sure whether he talked about a nano-coated copper or a copper in there as well. So we discussed that and listened to the video again, because there's a piece of copper and you're not sure whether he meant nano copper or what, because he talks also about it making CO2 at the bottom and zinc oxide at the top. But Jalal popped in and very quickly made 2 kits while we were talking, one with a straight copper, ordinary copper, and 2 zincs, one being nano-coated zinc, of course. And the second one had nano-coated zinc, nano-coated copper, and a zinc plate. And I haven't as yet heard which one made the best Gansas. So your one with all zinc is very interesting, what it would be doing in that particular situation.
Yeah, we did that one, which was all zinc. And then we did a second one, which had the nano copper coil. And then the 2 here, which are the side coppers, we did side zincs.
Oh.
So that also, it feels different. It's also very pleasant. And it's not CO2. You would think it would make CO2, but it's not actually the same as normal CO2. It feels different to that. So all of these things make slightly different dimensionalities, whatever you can call it. And it would be really interesting, because Kish also tends to not want to do these physical teaching. As he says, he always chucks it off to the reactor group, but the reactor group doesn't know enough. So he does need to teach this stuff and to say what each slight difference in the configurations and fields actually do.
Lisa, can I ask you a question about the emotion one and the zinc? I had the breathing kit from you that was about dealing with your emotions. What is that? Is that zinc and copper that I'm breathing through?
No, it's zinc and CO2 only.
Okay.
Yeah, it was to be zinc and CO2. You don't breathe copper.
Okay, because what I found with that is it just, which is why I bought it, is that it just makes you go, it doesn't make it, it brings up really deeper, same issues that you might have always had, but it goes deeper and deeper and deeper, and it brings up situations in your life to deal with those deeper depths of emotion, yeah, which is this zinc, isn't it?
Yes.
So, yeah, the 3 zincs, that sounds amazing, yeah. Yeah.
You know, we've always been taught that you still need the CO2 to kind of link in the physical with the emotion.
Oh, okay.
But yes, the pure zinc is something quite strange, and it's not the same as the pure zinc which we normally make with 2 plates, 1 nano, 1
Right.
plain. So because
Yeah.
you've got coils and you're doing different things, and because there's 3 now, it changes something.
Well, you've got a spiral in the coil, like that's in, as far as geometry goes, that's very, very different to a flat plate.
It's bringing
very
much,
different.
It's bringing in much more added fields which all bounce off each other and create more and more dimensionality within that structure.
Yeah, because the spiral is life. All life comes from the spiral. Yeah, great.
Lisa, I see that the fields are actually love, and the love creates.
Yes, because love can be many things. So it is creative, yes.
Well, love is everything, isn't it?
That's right.
So you ask to stuff it up.
And that's all we have to do from our soul, is give that love unconditionally everywhere. Yeah. And I think we'll solve many problems with that.
Yes. I just as a side angle on, I don't do Facebook much, but there is a page called Unconditional Giving and Receiving, and I've just got so much joy from giving things away. I mean, I'm also selling things too, but I'm getting more joy and fulfillment out of the things that I'm giving away, and it's so exciting when people come and I don't even see the people, I leave it out for them, but yeah, that giving is just very joy filled. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing to do, and that's just things. Yeah,
one doesn't have to just give, you know, one doesn't have to give in the physical sense, but you know, in the emotional and the soul sense as well, because our souls have got unlimited potential to give. So you know, whereas our physical, we sometimes need to keep stuff for ourselves.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, the soul is what can give unconditionally, and it's wonderful to do that. And I feel, you know, especially sitting with my cup and giving unconditionally, and not only to the people but to all the creatures that share our space, and connecting even in with the continent and the land is and giving to that is very, it's a wonderful feeling, because the more you give, the more you feel connected to them.
Yeah, well, he talked. I just quickly read the important things about the Cup of Man, and he was very much focusing on the no killing, which I guess is like, well, to me, I read it as being a vegetarian for a start. Yeah, he said that was very, very important.
Well, when he talks about that, he means nothing at all that you to eat.
Nothing.
Because according to him, he reckons, you know, you have a bowl of rice, you're killing 1 million rice seeds. You eat a bowl of beef, you only got a piece of one guy. So there's no difference actually.
Yeah, yeah, it's plants and animals. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like a breatharian, really.
Yes.
Or a Gansarian.
Yeah.
Let's all be Gansarians.
You know, and these cups we can play around with, but it's really up to our emotional state as to how far we can go with it for the food. Because if we're feeling like we need the food, we will still want the food, even if we're using the cup and anything from the cup. Whereas if you really want to do it, you will be able to use the ganses or use the cup to feed off of, because he was explaining that even if you read in the Old Testament and also from the old nomads of the desert, how they or the I think it was with Muhammad, he explained how in the one thing that they had this wandering in the desert story, and how to feed themselves, they put a stone in the front of their stomach and a stone in the back.
Oh.
And it fed them.
Oh, I love that.
So you think that was the energy passing, like we make the patches. It was the energy passing through the body that fed these people. Obviously not well. They couldn't have been fat off it, but it somehow managed to sustain their lives. So even a stone can feed you. So, you know, it's all in the mind as to how you can take energies.
That's just my little grandkid who in America, I saw a video of him, and he hurt himself and he picked up a rock and put it straight on his foot or wherever he'd hurt himself. And I thought, because I've got rocks everywhere in my unit, and so I picked up a couple of them when I had a pain in my neck once, and just put a rock on either side, and that worked. Yeah, it actually worked. So yeah, that's great.
You know, so even the rock has a soul, and it has certain energies, not as strong as the ganses, and you can use those energies just like we use crystals and all sorts of things. So, you know, you play with your ganses in your cup and see what it can do, and it's really your strength of will and your intent that's going to give you the food or not. Because according to him, we will not elevate completely until we stop all the food, because we are killing by every mouthful we take. So that is stopping us in a way.
Yeah.
Well, I think the killing builds our karma, and then we have more to clear before we can leave.
Anybody else like to say anything before we call it a day?
Well, I would just like to say that there are people out there, they call themselves breatharians, but there are ones that who've been like that for years, and then they've actually been pregnant and same thing, not eaten, and they've had babies, healthy babies through all that, and the babies are the same. Yeah, so there are not doing it through GANs, but however they're doing it, probably with intention, but it's already happening. Yeah, so that's wonderful.
Yes, I think, and if we all can see it, you know, if we see other people doing it easily and understandably, then we'll be able to help ourselves to do that as well. And then it'll become like an avalanche, you know. We'll just, everybody will find it easier and easier, because there's always got to be those trailblazers that start everything off. And then, and then it becomes easier for the rest of us to do.
Well, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Trailblazer.
We just give the theory, and hopefully I don't have time for the sitting too much and trying to contemplate all these things. I just have to do, and I just have to give, and hopefully that's good enough, you know. I've never been one to be able to sit still and meditate for too long, so I hope the trailblazers come and I can help to follow.
Right, thank you. Thanks so much to both of you.
Thanks, Linda.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Jimmy. Fabulous. Yeah.
Just had a query just before you go. Has anybody ever done any say, larger cups and put in, you know, say 6 spirals or other kinds of configurations instead of the usual 2 or 3?
We have played with this before, but we've never played with spirals. We've always played with plates, because originally Kesh always did the plates, and maybe that was his way of creating a bit of a misdirection, so none of us really went onto the spiral route. So, you know, we've played with various configurations of plates. We've actually made things like joined the plates together to make circles, and we've used some tensor rings before to create energy. You know, we've made a tensor ring out of copper, and then with chicken mesh, and happily made huge oodles of CH3 without any like proper nano-coated copper plate. It's just a very thin little tensor ring, and it's making huge amounts of copper, of CH3.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Okay. What is a tensor ring?
It's a circle made of copper that has been twisted in a certain length.
Okay. I think we had those, but we called them something else, maybe.
Yes, possibly. So you take two wires, and you just, you know, twist, so it makes like a twirl, and then you make a perfect circle with it, a certain dimension.
Well, there's a very important, if you're going to do things like that, apparently doing things 9 times has a phenomenal energy in it. Yeah, apparently if you understand the number 9, you understand the universe, is what I think Einstein said. Yeah.
Well, that was Kesh's latest thing that he was talking in his last 2 workshops. He was saying his contract is up on the 21st of the 3rd, 21. So he's got maybe 10, 11 months left. And then when you add the numbers up, it says 9. So it's the final.
It's a 9. It's a 9.
And he said, no, that's when he becomes a man again. And he's finished he's finished his term of being the one to bring the knowledge. So what he'll do after that, I'm not sure, but yes, that's what he's saying. That'll be the end of his major teaching, I reckon. He'll come to the main.
Wow.
So just to remind everyone that you can get some kits at kfmaustralia.com.au. What you do is you just order a normal cup of life, number 1, which comes with a cup of life, number 2. And if you put into the comments that you want to make a cup of man, then I'll add the wires and things for you to be able to make your cup of man. So if you order it on the website, then at least we know that it's that all the stuff is, you know, there, and the orders are through, and Jimmy can make it up for you, and I'll just add the wires in. And is everybody there?